Hi, I'm Steve Powell, Executive Vice President of the President's Council. As many of you know, our organization is dedicated to bringing buyers and sellers together in the global home building and home improvement industries. One of my roles over the last 15 plus years has been helping North American suppliers pioneer the European and UK DIY markets. Many suppliers view the UK as a logical first step into Europe because of its similarities to North America in retail landscape and, of course, language. I'll take you through a brief overview of the market and offer some advice on how to approach this market based on my experience. Okay, very quickly, just some notes on the UK in general terms. The language is obviously English, and you don't need to worry about other languages for packaging or instructional manuals or anything like that. They are a member of the European Union. The UK population, as we record this, is right around 64 million people. Comparatively, the US is just over 316 million. The landmass of the UK, this is including England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, is just over 94,000 square miles, whereas the US is right around 3.8 million square miles. A few other key facts about the UK and how it differs from the rest of Europe and the US. While they are a member of the EU, they do still have the British pound, which is currently valued at about $1.59 USD. The value-added tax, or VAT, is similar to our sales tax. It's a key point to keep in mind because it's actually included in the shelf price of items sold in the UK. So the price you see on the shelf is the same price you're going to pay at the register, and that is currently about a 20% rate VAT. It's important as you're doing your like-for-like comparisons on your competition and as you're addressing the price points that your products are going to end up at the shelf. They're able to do this really because it's a national rate, whereas ours differs from county to county, so they can have the same price at the shelf throughout. The per capita GDP of the UK sits just over 38,000 compared to the US is right around 53,000. The average fuel cost is high, the equivalent of about $4.92 per gallon. They tend to drive smaller cars, and also it's helpful to keep in mind that logistics costs in the UK are quite a bit higher than what we see in North America. The average UK house is right around 1,000 square feet, where the US averages just around 2,300 square feet. Houses are not only smaller, but typically built without stick construction, but actually using brick and concrete. This means many DIY projects are more difficult, and therefore building materials are less of a focus in the DIY store, and the product mix tends to be more geared toward the garden and decor products. Key markets in the Eurozone to mention are France, Germany, Europe's largest economy, and the Benelux countries, comprised of Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. And lastly, Scandinavia, which is Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland, who actually do not use the euro. Between the UK, France, Germany, Benelux, and Scandinavia are the homes of the retailers where you'll reach most of Europe, including Southern Europe. There are really two types of culture to keep in mind as you're looking at the European markets. The first is the European versus North American culture. A great example of this is Christmas. It is a huge deal over there, and they really don't have a Thanksgiving holiday to start the season, so it seems to be creeping earlier and earlier every year. Another is the big box culture. If you're already dealing with a big box home improvement store in North America, you've got a good understanding already of the big box culture. It is very much the same in Europe as it is here in North America. This is a graph that we like to use to illustrate the market position of each of the channels within the industry. The vertical axis is location. At the top, your out-of-town, rural, and at the bottom, your in-town, high street stores. The horizontal axis is margin. Low margin, high turn commodity to the left, and high margin, low turn packaged goods to the right. In the upper left sit the timber merchants, the out-of-town commodity building material dealers. In North America, this is where you would see 84 Lumber, ProBuild, and Timber Marts in Canada. In the middle are where the big box and warehouse chains sit. Suburban, a mix of DIY and building materials. This is where you'd see Lowe's and Home Depot here. In the lower right are the internet retailers, super convenient and typically not heavily into building materials. One of the key differences between Europe and the US is the lack of strong hardware co-ops like Ace, True Value, and Do It Best that occupy this space here. Okay, the DIY landscape. This is a very consolidated market. 15 years ago, it was filled with names like Texas Home Care, Focus DIY, Do It All, and Great Mills. Today, your clear market leader is B&Q. They'll be very easy to understand for U.S. suppliers. They're very much like a Lowe's or a Home Depot. Annual sales are right around $5.75 billion U.S. They have 358 stores. Some of them are their large format supercenters, and the rest are about 60 to 70,000 square feet. This is a very sophisticated big box retailer. Their parent company is Kingfisher, who also owns Castorama and Screwfix, among others. They have buying offices around the world and operate on very tight margins compared to other retailers. Homebase is the second largest and are positioned more on the decorative, emphasizing the softer side. They have been bought and sold a few times over the past couple decades and currently are a sister company of Argos, which is a major catalog retailer with retail pickup points somewhat similar to what Service Merchandise used to look like in the U.S. Their annual turnover is about $2.8 billion. Store count was about 342 the last time I've seen it. Wilkinson is another key retailer in the market, but would not be what we consider to be a typical DIY retailer. They operate about 234 stores that are a mix of light DIY and general merchandise. While they don't really have all the products that you'd normally find in a B&Q or Homebase, they definitely are significant in those categories that they do carry. Their annual sales are around $1.8 billion. And lastly, Wix is alive and well in the UK market, currently owned by Travis Perkins, and does position somewhere between the pro dealer and the DIY shop. They rely very heavily on private label. They look for high turns on a low number of SKUs with about 200 stores in the UK. In France, Leroy Merlin is the market leader. The stores are large format, big box with more of a focus on decor than their competition within France. They have well over 120 stores and around $6 billion in sales within France. Their parent company, the Adeo Group, is Europe's largest DIY retailer with Leroy Merlin as the key brand. The group has an annual revenue of €10 billion with over 500 stores in 12 countries. Castorama is the second largest retailer in the market. They have more of an emphasis on building materials than others in the market. They operate around 100 stores with annual sales over $3 billion. They also belong to the Kingfisher Group, Europe's second largest retailer, along with B&Q in the UK and other outlets around Europe. Also of note is Mr. Bricolage. They operate smaller format stores of around 400 stores within France. Germany is the strongest and least consolidated market in Europe. Major retailers have expanded in Eastern Europe and represent the best way to sell into these countries. Obi is the market leader and was the first home center operation in Europe. It was started by Emolux Distribution and Tengelmann grocery stores. Lux remains an owner and supplier to Obi for Lux brand tools as well as Obi private label. They operate both franchise and corporate stores with over 580 stores in 13 countries. Bauhaus is a privately owned chain with over 220 stores in Germany and 15 countries. They are very, very large format stores and cater to the serious DIYer and small contractor. Their biggest competitor for those customers is another privately owned company named Hornbach. They were once part of the Kingfisher Group, but no longer. Hornbach operates over 130 stores in 9 countries. Toom are the DIY and garden stores of the over $50 billion Reve Group. Toom operates over 350 garden and DIY stores with sales over $2 billion. Globus is another that has a corporate parent in the grocery channel. Globus has around 80 stores, almost all in Germany. Hagebau is a chain of around 300 smaller hardware stores. There are others, but I also want to mention here Knauber. They are a very small chain headquartered in Bonn, Germany. They are truly unique stores that are well worth a visit if you're in Germany. Their use of space with merchandising and buyers work some of the time in the stores. They have a unique customer loyalty. A few other retailers worth mentioning in Europe start with Rautakesko. They are the DIY division of the Finnish mega retailer Kesko, one of the largest companies in Scandinavia. Rautakesko is the home improvement division which operates several different store formats with several different business models. Within Finland, they mainly operate the large format K-Rauta stores and the rural Rautia stores. Praxis from the Netherlands and Brico in Belgium belong to the Maxeda Group. Praxis operates with 140 stores, and Brico is the Belgian market leader with over 140 stores, including 11 larger Planet stores. Intergamma operates over 160 Hamma stores, with annual turnover of right around $1 billion. Co-op is the market leader in Switzerland, with around $500 million in sales, with at last look 74 stores. And Woody's is part of the Grafton Group and operates 38 Woody's DIY stores and 11 Atlantic stores, which are more discount DIY. They are the market leader in Ireland. Since the creation of the EU back in 1992, cross-border expansion has become an important part of European DIY retail. The Kingfisher Group was created by the joining of B&Q from the UK and Castorama from France. They now also operate stores in Spain, Ireland, Poland, China, Romania, Russia, Turkey, and the Arab Emirates. Leroy Merlin's corporate parent grew through crossing borders as well as acquisitions. Adeo Group operates different concepts depending on store size and country. Their main concept is Leroy Merlin, where the stores are from anywhere from 60,000 to 190,000 square feet. Over 230 stores fall into this concept. Smaller to medium stores, 20,000 to 60,000 square feet, fall into the Aki, Brico Center, or Weldom concept. There are 470 of these stores, and more than 330 of them are franchise stores. The 50,000 to 100,000 square foot store warehouse concept is called Bricoman. Adeo stores can be found in France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Poland, Turkey, Romania, Ukraine, Brazil, and China. Several German retailers began expanding into Eastern Europe. Obi has stores in Austria, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Hungary, Italy, Poland, Russia, as well as the Middle East. Bauhaus expanded east and north into Austria, Switzerland, Denmark, Spain, Estonia, Finland, Hungary, Sweden, and Norway, among others. Hornbach expanded into Eastern Europe as well as the Netherlands and Sweden. And Raudekesco operates in Finland, Sweden, Norway, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Russia, Belarus, with local chains and different names in nearly every market, including Bikemaker, Sanuki, Asko, Sutka, and more. Hypermarkets are an important part of the market because they carry a small selection of DIY and garden, but they can really drive volume in the products that they offer, which is typically light DIY, garden, and housewares. Of mention here, Asda is the Walmart in the UK with 360 stores. Tesco is similar, although they have more grocery and they're larger. They have 3,300 stores. And then Metro is the German outfit, and Auchan and Carrefour in France. As an import supplier, you're probably going to use one of three main strategies to enter the market. The first is the very simple cost leadership strategy. You're offering the same product that they already carry at a better price. Second is the value-added strategy. Here you're offering a better product than they currently are offering at the same price, so you're actually adding value to their line. The third is the comprehensive differentiation strategy. Here you're bringing something completely new to the market, whether it's product innovation, different styles, colors, features, a different brand that they're not typically carrying, or better services, which could be warranties, dedicated customer service, faster shipping, could be packaging, can be terms and conditions. But basically you're taking yourself out of that cost-only negotiation. Following are some questions that buyers commonly ask at a first meeting. I think it's helpful to look at the conversation from the buyer's point of view to ensure all your bases are covered. First is, what's your compelling reason to buy? Is there a patent on your products? What differentiates you from your competitors? What innovation will drive the next generation of your products? Are you open to own brand, private label, or exclusivity? Where are your products manufactured? Can you ensure the quality? Do you have the required certificates for compliance in the market? Can you ensure 100% shipments on time and complete? At what percentage is your production capacity? What marketing communication vehicles do you offer to convince the end-use customer? This can include point-of-purchase materials. What sales support personnel do you have on the ground? How are after-sales service or replacement parts handled? A few tips on entering the market based on suppliers that I've helped do it successfully. First is, do your research. Understand the market. Know the players, visit the stores, get to know your competition's strengths and weaknesses. The second is to just stick with it. Don't give up. This might not happen overnight or even with 1 or 2 sales meetings. The UK is a very mature market and it takes time and persistence to pioneer. When possible, talk directly to the end-use customer. Don't count on store personnel to communicate your compelling reason to buy. Use all the available point-of-purchase communication opportunities. Make sure you develop direct relationships with the retailer. Don't rely on a rep or broker to be your only point of contact with the customer. You need to own that relationship. If distribution is needed, a great strategy is to talk to the buyer directly to recommend one they already use. This can lessen the cost for the retailer of having to add a new supplier and allow you to negotiate a cost-plus arrangement with the distributor and actually save some margin. Lastly is to differentiate through brand, product, packaging, and avoid having the same product on the same shelf at competing retailers. This list leads to price competition, shrinks margins, and nobody wins. Thanks, I hope this was helpful. A little insight into the European DIY market and how you may go about entering it. If you'd like to talk to me further about how we may be able to help, please reach me at any of the contact numbers in the slides. Thank you very much.